Before Rome, before Sparta, there was Assyria, a land carved by rivers and ruled by vision. From scattered city-states rose a power that learned to master not only men, but order itself. They built walls, then armies, then empires, each stronger than the one before. In the heart of Mesopotamia, ambition found discipline, and discipline became destiny. For the first time in human history, war was no longer a season. It was a profession. Every sunrise over the Tigris would see soldiers drilling, counting, preparing, not for a battle but for the idea of empire itself. In the early centuries of Assyria, armies were farmers with spears, men who fought when harvest ended. But kings soon saw the weakness of waiting. An empire cannot pause for planting. So they forged a new idea, the soldier as a profession. Each man would serve year-round, trained, equipped, and recorded on clay tablets, not as a name but as a number in a system. From this discipline came predictability. From predictability came victory. The Assyrian army no longer reacted to war. It prepared for it every day and every season. Organization had become a weapon. From the heart of Assyria came a new sound, the song of iron striking iron. In the forges of Nineveh and Asher, metal replaced bronze, and history changed its armor. No longer were weapons the privilege of kings. Iron could be shaped, multiplied, standardized. Every spear, every sword identical and replaceable. The Assyrians turned the forge into a factory, centuries before the word existed. With each hammer's fall, war became less about courage and more about production. Iron gave them not just strength but uniformity, the birth of military industry. Power needs order, and the Assyrians mastered it. Their armies moved like living machines, each man a cog in a greater design. From the king's command to the officer's signal, discipline flowed downward like a river of obedience. Captains led hundreds, lieutenants led tens, scribes recorded every ration and spear. There was no chaos, no chance, only command, precision, and fear. Each soldier knew his place, each rank its purpose. To disobey was to vanish, and through this chain of order, the Assyrian army became more than men. It became a system. Discipline took form and wore a uniform. Across the empire, soldiers marched in rows of bronze and leather, their helmets gleaming beneath the sun of Mesopotamia. Each carried the same shield, the same spear, the same purpose. Uniformity became identity, and identity became power. To see an Assyrian column was to witness control made visible. No color out of line, no motion without order. They were not just warriors, but symbols of the state itself. In their matching armor, they carried a single message: the empire moves as one. An army's strength is not only in its swords, but in its stomach. The Assyrians knew this truth centuries before any general would speak it. Behind every battle marched a second army, wagons of grain, barrels of water, herds of oxen, and men who counted every ration. Bridges were built before campaigns began, roads paved to carry supplies faster than the wind. They turned the act of movement into strategy itself. No soldier fought hungry, no army marched blind. While others trusted luck, the Assyrians trusted logistics, the quiet weapon that never failed them. They were not only soldiers, they were builders. When walls rose against them, the Assyrians answered with invention. Bridges spanned rivers, siege ramps climbed cliffs, and wooden towers rolled forward like beasts of iron and flame. Their engineers calculated angles, measured stones, and turned architecture into warfare. Each fortress was a problem, and they solved it with science. No gate was too tall, no wall too thick. They built as they destroyed, shaping victory with the same hands that carved temples. In their mastery of siegecraft, destruction itself became an art. From the workshops of Assyria came monsters of wood and bronze, the battering rams. Covered in wet hides to resist flame, they crept toward city walls like living creatures of thunder. Inside, teams of men worked in rhythm, their strikes timed like a heartbeat of war. Each impact shook stone, each echo carried fear. The ram was not just a weapon, it was a message. Resistance was futile and order would prevail. Behind its pounding rhythm marched the empire's will, relentless, methodical, unstoppable. The Assyrians learned that terror could conquer faster than any sword. Their victories were not only fought, they were displayed. Reliefs carved in palace walls showed enemies flayed, cities burning, kings kneeling before the conqueror. Every village that resisted became a warning to the next. Fear moved ahead of the army, clearing paths no weapon could cut. But to the Assyrians this was not cruelty. It was strategy, order through dread. They ruled hearts before they ruled lands, and in their silence marched obedience. Empire was their blueprint, and death was its foundation. From the hands that built palaces rose the same hands that built war machines. Roads stretched across deserts, linking garrisons and supply depots. Fortresses rose in every province, part temple, part weapon. The Assyrian soldier became both mason and destroyer, builder and executioner of the king's will. Each stone carried two meanings, creation and conquest. They built a world where order demanded obedience, and obedience demanded blood. Long before the word espionage was spoken, the Assyrians had mastered it. Messengers rode ahead of armies, counting wells, roads and walls. Agents whispered in markets, recording prices, rumors and loyalties. Clay tablets carried more than trade. They carried secrets. The king's scribes mapped not just the land, but the minds of men. Knowledge became their silent weapon, information their invisible army. When their soldiers marched, they already knew what awaited them. Every gate, every weakness, every fear. In the Assyrian army, loyalty was law. Soldiers swore oaths not just to the king, but to the idea of empire itself. Rituals bound them together, punishments reminded them of their place, and honor became both shield and chain. Each man knew that failure was not only personal, but a stain on his unit, his family, and his city. Faith in the king was faith in survival. Obedience was the lifeline of the state. Through rituals, discipline, and shared belief, the army became more than soldiers. It became a living organism, driven by loyalty, fear, and devotion. The Assyrians carved their triumphs into stone. Walls of palaces became chronicles, each relief a story of conquest, power, and order. Enemies flayed, cities burning, kings kneeling, all immortalized in bronze and plaster. These images were more than decoration. They were warnings, propaganda, and a record for eternity. Every figure, every detail, proclaimed the empire's reach and the futility of resistance. Through art, the Assyrians turned history into a weapon, shaping perception as surely as they shaped the battlefield. Stone became their voice, telling generations what words alone could not convey. Even the mightiest empire cannot endure forever. Assyria's legions, once unstoppable, faced overreach, rebellion, and exhaustion. Cities they had built crumbled under siege, roads once alive with supply convoys fell silent, and soldiers marched no more. The walls they toppled now enclosed ruins, and the banners that inspired fear lay tattered on empty streets. Power, once absolute, turned fragile. Yet, in their fall, the lessons of order, discipline, and strategy remained, echoing silently through history. The empire ended, but the idea of a professional army would live on. The Assyrian army vanished, but its influence endured. Every rank, every drill, every principle of organization echoed in the armies that followed. Persia, Rome, and beyond. Their innovations in logistics, discipline, and strategy became the blueprint of professional warfare. The shields they bore may have rusted, and the walls they stormed may have fallen to dust, but the idea that an army could be a machine, precise, relentless, and immortal, lived on. Assyria's legacy is written not only in ruins, but in the very way humanity learned to fight, to organize, and to wield power.